All right, welcome everybody to the kickoff of the project of the first project of the minor, Environmental Geography. This project is called Water Systems. Actually, it's called Urban Ecology, and this year we'll be looking at water systems. Oh. One small problem. There we go. The impact of humans on water and water quality has been very big throughout history. The earliest known in history was the Romans, who used lead pipes to distribute their water through the city. Also, they used lead acetate as a sweetener. They added it to their wine to make it sweeter, for example. And this led to contamination and to lead poisoning. Much later, in 1854, there was an epidemic of cholera in London, and there was a doctor called Dr. John Snow, yes, the same name as the Game of Thrones, and he noticed that he made a little map. You can see this map down here on the bottom right. He made a map of all of the sick people, and he noted where they lived. Yeah, without the H. Anyway, so he made a map, and he was the first one to do this, and put a red dot to do that for sick people. But he put a red dot where every sick person was, and he noticed that where the red dots were always near one certain well. No, Daniel, you played too much World of Warcraft. Those are not White Walkers. They all lived around the same pump. So you see here you have the blue buttons. Those are the water pumps. And almost all of the sick people were around the same water pump. So he was the first real person to use GIS to trace water quality. And then he said, we need to stop using this water pump. And as soon as they did, the cases of cholera drastically went down. So it was a success. But now the question is, what is water pollution? You probably have a general idea, maybe even a specific idea, but I will reiterate it. There are three basic categories of water pollution. The first is chemical or biological change in water quality that affects living organisms or makes unsuitable for the desired use. This means physical pollution could be something like suspended solids. Chemicals could be lead or nickel, heavy metals, but also polychlorinated biphenyls, and organic chemicals, or lastly, biological contamination. And in the example of John Snow, this was cholera. In the photo, you see a poor guy with an open sore on his thumb. Can anybody, tell me what? Actually, it says in the box below. This is a man from Taiwan and Bangladesh. I think he's Bangladeshi, and his water is contaminated with arsenic. But this is a completely natural contamination. This is not because of human waste. So, oh no, Luana can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Well, yeah. Okay. Anybody else can't hear me? I think maybe you want to see my camera as well. Okay, I'll continue. Water pollution can be natural, or water pollution can be from human actions. So on the right-hand side, you see the drainage of water into the rivers. This is sewage water, and these can cause lots of problems, such as cancer or illness. other illnesses. We categorize these pollutions into two different categories. The first is point sources. Here you see several different point sources. On the left-hand side is untreated wastewater discharge. So it comes directly from a factory, for example, or from a city into the water. That's one point source. Another point source on the right is a feedlot. And this is where cows are put, and quite often they will contaminate the soil. The second is non-point source. A non-point source is a large area of ground, and for example, surface runoff through garbage on picture A. That is a type of non-point source. Use of pesticides by the airplane in B. That is a non-point source because it's spread over the entire farmland. Or lastly, runoff from roads, which is the picture in the lower right-hand corner. These are all types of non-point source pollutants. There are other sources of pollutants from the air, from the atmosphere. These are atmospheric deposition, this is called. Here you see on the left in the car's exhaust, that's one type of atmospheric deposition, so lead might be coming out. And on the right you see from the factory. All of these gases and waste go into the atmosphere, and then eventually it will rain, and when it rains, the pollution goes into the water. Groundwater after it rains can be polluted. So as you see here, in the right-hand side, we have polluted air from the factory, but also pesticides and fertilizers from the farm, sewer tanks, etc. These often get discharged into the groundwater, and then the water comes out either through a well or through a river or lake. An overview of all types of pollutants we have here in this sheet. You see 25% is through habitat alteration, 27.9% through siltation. Pathogens so infectious organisms is the third largest. Nutrients are only 9%, but are a very important one, because nutrients then impact the pathogens. The more nutrients you have, the more pathogens can grow. Metals is only 2.5%, but again, you only need a very small amount of metals to have a very great impact when it comes to pollution. The amount of metals that you can drink and get sick is very low, your toleration. And this goes also for organics, like polychlorinated biphenyls. So the contaminants I talked about that you'll be looking at are microbes. So in the laboratory, you have to think a little bit about how are you going to do the work for these bacteria. Not all bacteria, I hope you do realize, are necessarily bad. However, the pathogenic ones that are the ones you need to take care of. Inorganic contaminants, such as metals, but also nutrients. These are dissolved solids. You can measure them several different ways, and I will be showing you how you can do that in a few more sheets, but already think about how to do those tests. Organic contaminants, I put them on the sheet here, but they're crossed through so that you know we're not going to spend any time in the lab doing this. If you find a report or you talk to somebody who, for example, here at the water board, who can tell you about it, that's fine. However, in the lab, we're not going to be looking up that. We're not going to be using the gas chromatographs, for example. Lastly is sediment. A lot of people don't think about that, but sediment is a source of water pollution. Dirt comes off the road or from open fields, and the water becomes then undrinkable. In the sediment, there are also causes of water pollution. These include the erosion, forests being degraded, and the runoff going into the water. Environmental effects, so there are lower light penetration. Therefore, aquatic organisms like plants do not receive sunlight and therefore cannot put the oxygen into the water, which means that there's less oxygen for the fishes. So a high nutrient load and a high metal count and a high sediment deposition from runoff all have severely negative effects for the ecosystem. And while we are not going to be looking directly at the ecosystem, we're not going to, for example, be walking through the rivers and shocking the fish to do a fish count, which is what they do here. There are people who go around shocking the river, and then the fish float to the top of the river. We will not be doing that. Maybe next year. It's actually a lot of fun to do. I've done it a few times. The fish do not die. They are sedated. They float to the top, so you can count them, weigh them, see how big they are, and then they wake up and you put them back in the river. They don't die, but it's very time consuming. Yeah, there's the text behind the pictures, but don't worry about that too much. Thank you, Emilio. It's a shocking experience. I'm somewhat glad I turned off your microphone. I'll continue. But there are other ways of looking at the biota. You can look at algae growth, something that I have not put into. I'm not asking you to do, but if you are really thinking that's a great thing to do, I will let you do that. Look in the microscope to see what kind of algae you find. You can also do insect larva counts, look for different species which are indicative to healthy or not healthy rivers. These are all valid ways of looking at water quality, but we'll be mostly focusing in the lab on the chemical and the microbiological. So yeah, the pathogens are almost directly related to the release of wastewater from drains and sewers, and also animal feces, which is very common in the Netherlands. So all these pretty cows you see in the fields, they all release manure into the fields, and then it rains, and that goes directly into the water supply. And this, of course, these animals have fecal coliform bacteria just like we do, and this can become very dangerous. This can then, because of nutrient runoff, be even higher and increase the microbiological load. So bacteria, protozoa, parasitic worms, I see people swimming in the canals in the Netherlands, and I think they're absolutely crazy. They have no idea what's in the water. Thankfully, in the Netherlands, it's actually too cold to have cholera or typhoid. But there are algae which can be very, very dangerous, and that does grow in the canals here in the Netherlands. So I'll be interested to see what we get from people in Romania and Hungary and Spain, because I don't know what it's like. I know how dirty the water is here. I actually expect the Dutch water to be the filthiest, because we are living under the sea level, and so all of the nutrients come up. And I think a lot of you, for example, Hungary, you will have water coming from the mountains, and so it's not penetrated the groundwater, and it will dilute the pollution, rather than here, pollution gets concentrated. So as mentioned, algal blooms are very common here. This is a picture from the Netherlands. All three pictures are from the Netherlands. So as you see, is a cow walking through the field, and can you imagine what this water is like? Some of you might be able to see this in a few weeks, or this week even. Yeah, it's not so clean, no. And on the right-hand side, this is a wetland. It's a very natural place, a place that we will be visiting, called the Biesbos, for some of you will be visiting. And it, oh, Marijke. So the Biesbos is very natural, actually, but it's a swamp. So the soil is very nutrient rich. So as I mentioned here, these are human, although it's cows, but we say this is human-induced pollution. On the right-hand side, this is natural pollution. Well, not pollution, it's just not healthy for humans to drink, for example, or swim in. Yeah, so here are some direct water effects. Blue-green algae produces toxins that affect the liver and the nervous system. Nitrates above 45 milligrams per liter are hazardous for different ways. Nutrient uptake, but also can cause cancer. Gastric cancer, that's a cancer of the stomach and intestines. Indirectly, oxygen depletion for fish, and of course birds, if they eat the fish, can die. It also may cause botulism, which are toxic for us. Okay, here is how basically how point sources work. Okay, I see some text during the conversion also went behind. Don't worry about that. I can talk my way through it. So organic matter comes from different ways. Plant residues. So a natural organic matter is just the breakdown of plants into ammonium and phosphate, which gets into the water. This gets two things happen. First, the oxygen is depleted because, for example, ammonium will be converted to nitrate in the presence of oxygen. And this will be biologically converted by organic matter, but also bacteria. So as you walk, if this were a river, and here is the point source on the left-hand side, you see the black line before the point source is very high. That's dissolved oxygen, so we have many happy fishes. Yes, I know, by the way, the plural of fish is fish, but if you have a salmon and a trout, they're fishes, so just be careful about the... so it is fishes, so here on the left you have different fishes. As the point source happens, the ammonium and other organic material is broken down through the oxygen, so the oxygen disappears, the black line, and then it eventually slowly gets back up. However, what also goes up here is the amount of bacteria, because they are the ones, once this is broken down, the oxygen breaks down the nutrients. Now the oxygen goes back up, but also the bacteria go back up. And I will be interested to see in your projects what you find. If you can find this, this is a classic example, and hopefully maybe you can also find this classic example, or not. Your results is still yet to come. Here are some inorganic chemicals, that are quite often tested for, and cuvette tests. We have these tests ready for you. They include zinc, lead, copper, and iron, and here are some nasty potential health effects from long-term exposure. I'm not going to go through every single point because that's a whole lot, but where the contamination comes from, possible sources you see on the right-hand column. So photocopying produces a lot of zinc, which therefore can cause abdominal cramps or vomiting. Iron production, corrosion, can also be a natural source of lead, can be directly, iron can can cause organic failure. I'm sorry, I could only find this in Dutch, but these are national limit values. And from the Netherlands, it's pretty easy to translate. So you see arsenic is 50 milligrams per liter, cadmium, cyanide, chrome, mercury, nickel, lead, antimony, selenium. These are all the national values. For your project, of course, you will have to find all of these norms. On the Blackboard site, I have lots and lots of links and articles under EU directives. There's a folder called EU directives, and they are in English. But so you'll be able to look at the EU values at your leisure. So what are you guys going to do? What are the key indicators that I think are the best to look at for your project? Well, I definitely think there are some physical qualities that you can do. Suspended solids and bed load. Bed load for the Netherlands, you can forget about because there's no rocks. A bed load, if you remember, is the rocks at the bottom of a river. There are really no rocks in the Netherlands. It's just a muddy bottom. But suspended solids, if you remember, you can do that. You put the water through a filter and measure the filter before and after, and you see how much suspended solids. Turbidity, color, these are values that you give yourself. So when you go into the field and you're taking the samples, say what the color was. Is it green? Is it brown? Is it clear? Is it purple? I mean, it's possible to have purple water if you have purple algae. So what color is the water? Is it transparent? Is it opaque? Odor, you can just use your nose. Does it smell foul? Does it smell like a swamp? Then that will tell you that there's H2S. Yeah, so how do you check bed load? Sorry, Simona, I see your question now. Checking bed load is pretty simple. You put your hands in the water, you grab a rock, and then you measure the rock. So it's just a matter of taking a ruler with you into the field. Grab 5 or 6 rocks of different sizes that you think were representative and measure them. And then you can make an average. Okay, yeah, that's a good question with an easy answer, thankfully. Dissolved conductivity. Taste. I don't recommend tasting the water, but that is something that you can do. Taste it. For example, some students have wanted to test their water from home because it didn't taste good. So if you want to also check your water at home, by all means, you can. Especially if you live here in Breda, so you can see, you can see. We can bring an express. Hey, if you have a volunteer to taste, who's willing to taste the water, some foreigners, yeah. Who said that? I don't see who said it. It's anonymous. If you can find an intern willing to do it, then by all means. But they don't pay for it. If you can pay them for it, it's a non-paid internship. I'm not paying for it anyway. Conductivity you can do in the lab. Temperature and dissolved oxygen, however, they need to be done in the field. And as I mentioned soon in another sheet, we do not have a dissolved oxygen meter, but perhaps there's somebody that you will meet this week or next week that you can ask to borrow their meter. And in fact, I've already asked them, but we'll get to that shortly. Biological indicators, we will be doing, for example, BOD. That is a cuvette test. Most of you have done that already. It's a pretty simple test with a spectrophotometer, and you'll learn that in the lab. It'll take you about 2 minutes to learn it, if that long. Pathogens. Who can tell me how do you measure pathogens in water? Can anybody type that? How in the lab can you see if there's bacteria? Yeah, grow them. How do you grow them? Yeah, in petri dishes. So you have to think again about different agar plates. Huh? I don't hear you, but you can type it. There are some, for those of you who are with proper media, yeah. For those of you who are in Romania and Spain and Hungary, you miss the, I call them peanut gallery. They, they sit there and make comments. Anyway, yeah, so you have to think about agars. And in a few sheets, I make some suggestions. Chemical qualities, pH, hardness, heavy metals, organic contaminants. If you're really desperate to use a gas chromatograph or an HPLC, I will let you, no problem. But then you'll have to tell me ahead of time so we can arrange that. It can be arranged, but we need at least about a week warning to do that. Nitrates, ammonia, phosphate. There are cuvette tests for Dr. Lange for all of those, and we have them in stock. Well, we should have them in stock. I ordered them, so and I was told they came in. So pH measurement, it's not necessarily a great indicator for... Oh, one small thing I forgot to mention. When everyone is aware they have it in stock. Well, actually, Christian, what happens is that we almost always, yeah, not everyone's gone. We've always had them in stock, but I remember last year I couldn't find it because someone had moved it. The so-and-sos, I'm not going to use the word I want to use, but people hide it so that other people don't use their, between quotes, cuvette tests. But yeah, so we do have them. I know that for sure. Anyway, so pH, pH is not necessarily an indicator of bad water, because some water is naturally acidic, especially if you are in a forest, because forests have normally just acidic ground soil. So if the soil is acidic, the water will become also acidic. However, if it's lower than 4, it's going to taste pretty bad because of toxic metals and ions in the water. Between 4 and 6, it may also have dissolved metals, but not necessarily as bad. Between 6 and 9, there are no significant effects on health are expected. However, if this is in a system, where there's a lot of buffer, so for example, limestone rock has lots of calcium and carbonate, the water will be slimy. This is what hard water is called. It's just like slimy water because of a high amount of ions. So this, because it's between 6 and 9, does not necessarily mean it's good water. And between 9 and 11, you'll get what's called depronated species. And depronated species are, for example, for me, my favorite is amino acids. In the middle of the amino acid is a hydrogen. And if the pH increases above 9, the hydrogen, which is called a proton, gets ripped off, for example, by the OHs. So a pH above 9 means there's a lot of OH, and so it will attract an H from another molecule, for example, an amino acid. And a normal amino acid will certainly be no problem, but a depronated amino acid can cause health problems. So that's why pH above 9 can be bad. So TSS is a good indicator of non-point source or suspended solids, and that it's expressed milligrams per liter, and there are normal ranges between 0 to 450, but this depends if it's drinking water, if it's swimming water, if it's open water, and you'll have to look up all of these norms. As I mentioned, it's on the Blackboard site, so you don't have to look too far to find them. But what about dissolved solids? So we talked about the 2 of the 3 different types of solids. We had bed load. In the Netherlands, really isn't any bed load, and I imagine in Hungary there is. Spain, for example, probably is. Romania, I don't know. But what about, and we talked about suspended solids, but how do we measure dissolved solids? Anybody have any idea? We could measure directly the dissolved metals. But we can't measure all of them. We could, but then you'd spend 5 days in the lab just doing dissolved metals. Is there another indicator that might help you see if there's a lot of dissolved solids? No? It's conductivity. So well, I wouldn't say it's accurate or even good, but it's quite often used as a quick measurement. You can just look at the conductivity of the water, and if the conductivity is above a certain range, they often will say there's evidence of a high amount of dissolved solids. So lead, iron, metals, PCHs, any kind of dissolved molecule in the water if the conductivity is high. But it's not direct, it's just an indicator. And you can do that in the lab. It's very simple. And in fact, most pH meters are also conductivity meters. So you can do that easily in the lab. Again, nitrates. Here, I'm not going to go through every single step of how a spectrophotometer works. It's pretty simple. I'll let you Google the law of Lambert and Baer and how the absorption of certain wavelengths is measured through a spectrophotometer. I'll let you do that. But we're more interested in looking at what happens in the cuvette and then measuring the absorption to find out the levels. So, and that all is done automatically by a Dr. Lange cuvette test. So, happy days. Okay, now I've gone on and on and on. I'm going to take a small break for 15 minutes. If you're watching this on the YouTube, because I'm recording this, by the way, we'll be right back. But for all the rest of you, if you have questions until now, or if you want to go to the toilet, or if you want to get a coffee, now is the time. And I'll see you in, we'll say at 9:55. Yeah, after the advertisements. Welcome back for the YouTube viewers. Yeah?
On Wednesday the 17th?
We'll get to it very, very shortly. But so our case study, I'll introduce to you now. This looked perfectly fine on my laptop at home. I'll have to, recheck this. So our case study is the Mark River for the people here in the Netherlands. Actually, I think it's called in English the Dintel. That's the translation in English, the Dintel. But I don't like that translation, so I just call it the Mark, which is what the Dutch people call it. So I'm going to call it the Mark River. You see, throughout my presentation, I call it the Mark River, but it's called the Dintel in English. Weird. Okay, so this project is basically given to us by the Water Board, or a waterschap in Dutch, called Brabantse Delta, and you'll be meeting them. And what they do, I'll continue, is they look at the waterways in the Netherlands. One of the major waterways is the River Mark, and it begins in Belgium. So if you look here on the map, it's kind of difficult to see. Here is the border between the Netherlands and Belgium, and it starts in Belgium. It crosses the border near a city called Merseldreef, right here. It goes upwards to Breda, and eventually it goes into the North Sea. So that's called the Volkerak, and then to the North Sea. And it's dominated. It does have some. Here you see some. It's called the Upper Mark. That's in the south. So south is upper, and north is lower. So the Upper Mark River here on the left, it's mixed between natural habitats and farmlands, and then it goes to the city of Breda right here, and afterwards it's much broader, as you see, and it has lots more cities and a lot more farms. So there's a difference between the Upper Mark in the south, which is more natural but also has cow fields, etc., and the Lower Mark in the north, which has a lot of industrial. If you've lived in Breda for any amount of time, you know that North Breda, they have factories, they have a trash, a place where they put metal. So cars, after they've been compacted, their metals go next into the factory right next to the river. So there are lots of things along the way that you can, at least for the market case, use as your point source. The other thing is your responsibility, which you'll be taking over for the water board, is to monitor the quality along the mark, and one of its tributaries would be nice. Look for evidence of human impact. So you can choose what you want to look at. It would be nice if at least one group did like a farm and another group did like a factory. So it would be nice if at least one group chose the lower mark, another group chooses the upper mark. But that's up to you. So that means industrial activities, agricultural activities. You'll present this data in a report, several reports, and then advise the water board through a presentation. So these are the activities you'll have. The schedule for the tutor sessions, the schedule for the project looks like this. So this week is the week of 8 September. On Monday is the kickoff. Tuesday, I have nothing planned. Wednesday is the excursion, which unfortunately I will not be there, but it's really easy. We just, on Blackboard, I have where to meet. It's very close by, actually at a restaurant, parking spot. They'll pick you up. I think you'll be taking like a little bus trip. Thursday, nothing's planned. Friday was an optional field work, scouting for sites with me, but unfortunately I'll be gone, so you'll have to. I'll let you guys do it yourself. The lab on Monday is also cancelled, and it doesn't matter because I actually planned extra labs, so this one cancelling is not too big of a deal. The assignment 1 and 2, which are on Blackboard, are due on Wednesday. That's the 17th. And also, we'll be meeting Jaap from the water board and at the water board's headquarters here in Breda, for those of you in Breda. Friday is the first lab, and also the project plan is due for your groups. And I have the groups, I'll show the groups in the sheet a little bit down the line. The week of the 22nd, you have your first update with me. For the updates, you can go to the Blackboard site and pick a time through the wiki. We have a second lab, and also the tip tops are due. So in this week, you have in the tutor meeting also your tip tops for I see for people who are new to Avans and Academy of Life Sciences. You're like, what's a tip top? We'll get to that. It sounds very exciting. It's not that exciting, but we'll get to that soon. Tuesday, you basically do some field work, but that's, of course, how you time things and who does what. That's up to you guys to decide. Wednesday, that's the 24th. Assignment 3 is due. Again, it's on Blackboard. We also have an excursion to the Biesbos. And if you don't know what the Biesbos is, it's the largest freshwater tidal zone in Europe, and it's only about half an hour. The assignments are individual, yes. For Christian, it's the tip top isn't new, but for some people who are not from, they're new, they don't know about it yet. But so anyway, back to the excursion. We have a second excursion, or actually a third excursion to the Biesbos, which is a very natural area, and you can also take samples there. So we will go there, we'll rent some kayaks, we'll go around the kayak. It's actually a lot of fun. You'll take some samples, and even though it's completely natural, as I said, there's all such things as natural pollution. On Thursday, your project plan, if you failed your project plan, the redo is due on that Thursday. And then on Friday, we have, again, the lab is reserved for you. The second tutor meeting is on the 29th. Yeah, a lot of fun in the rain. It is fun. It is fun. Update with the tutor. The second update with the tutor is on Monday the 29th. Tuesday, you can do some field work. Wednesday, we have assignment 4 is due. We also have an excursion to the Neeltje-Jans, which is part of the Delta Works. It's actually a very impressive structure to go and visit. Thursday is, you can do some little field work. And Friday is your last lab possibilities. At least that's scheduled for you guys. If you want to do some last minute lab work, that's fine, but then you have to do that yourself. You have to go to the lab assistant who organizes it and say, when can I come and do a couple of small experiments? But that's up to you. Your last update is on the 6th of October. That Wednesday, your final report is due. Your theory report is due. And what those are, I'll explain in one of the next sheets. Friday, your advice report is due, and you will give your presentation. The week of the 13th of October is, on the Wednesday, your reports, if you received a fail for any of your reports or your presentation, the redo is due that Wednesday. Some students, so the week of the 20th, some students expressed interest in visiting Finland. And at first I thought we wouldn't be able to because of my colleague taking a leave of absence. But I called them last week and they were actually very excited. So if you guys are interested, we need to have a group of people. If we have at least, I think, 4 people who are interested in going, then we can go and we'll organize a Finland trip. We'll discuss this in the groups and who's interested. Yeah, Natalia, yay! Yeah, I subsidize the trip. I might be able to get it partially subsidized. So things like vans, I think I can subsidize that. I will quickly on KLM, a flight to Finland cost 200 euros. I think it was, including taxes, it was 207 euros. But there were some cheaper flights, but you had to get up really, really early, so I would say approximately 200 euros to fly to Finland, Helsinki. And there are hostels, depending if you want your own room, it costs 40 to 50 euros a night, depending on the hostel. And if you want to share a room, it can go down to like a 6-person room to like 17 euros a night. A 2-person room is like each person 25 euros. So we can do some more. If you're interested, we'll do some investigations. Yeah, so Simona, the stay, you need to pay for the stay and you'll need to pay for the flight. And I can subsidize things like lab material, rental of a van, gas, that kind of stuff. Basically 90% of the costs, yeah. But now, come on. It's a fun trip. Obviously, it's during. You have no classes that week, so there's no problem with your schedule. It's just 1 week, and the people in Finland are more than happy to help us. Yeah. Well, yeah, more than happy. Yeah, it's just okay. They're just happy. So it's not part of the project. Thank you, Simona, for asking that. I can pay for the kebabs. Ha ha ha, Christian. Remember, you have to eat it where you are now. You have to pay. You have to pay for food. I mean, so if you're here in Breda or you're in Finland, you have to pay for food. But the question is, it's not part of the project. No, it's not part of the project. However, here's the however. If you go on the trip to Finland, which will cost you a lot of time, right? Because you have to fly to Finland, organization. I am willing to, yeah, and money, but hey ho, that's life, Simona. If you go, I will let you not have to do at least one of the reports. I have to think about it because this is brand new. So I didn't think we were going to go because I heard from my colleague that she was taking a leave of absence. So I thought, oh crap, we're not going to be able to go. But then I talked to my other friend there. He's like, oh no, you can still come. It's just, you know, a different lab, but it's fine. And it's just for 1 week. But then you won't have to do one of the reports. It'll have to, yeah. Instead of the one thing, you can do the other thing. But we'll discuss that later. I have to think about it really. All right, so that's the basic schedule. Okay, so the field measurements, as I mentioned before, a lot of the things that you can do in the field are depth, volume, discharge, dissolved oxygen, temperature, speed. I know how to do this, but I would be a poor teacher if I just told you how to do it. So this is a minor. You're supposed to. You guys are old enough. You have wise enough to Google to find out how to do these things. And if you are really stuck and you say, Nathan, I really don't know how to measure the speed of a river, I'll tell you how. It's really easy. Also, as I mentioned. And the DO. If you're in Spain, don't worry about it. You don't have to do the DO. We can just do the BOD. That'll be fine. Yeah. So the people who are abroad, yeah, rule of thumb. Basically, things that we don't have here in the lab. If you're in Spain or Hungary, you don't have to do it. But something like. If the river is too big to wade into, if it's a big river and it's 2 meters deep, I mean, obviously you can't, well, if you want to, you can. I would not advise it. But it's difficult to see the depth and the speed and the discharge of a river if it's deep. So how do you do that? Well, here's a hint. We are talking to the water board, and the person that we are talking to is his title. I'm trying to think what the translation of his title would be. It's Water Quantity Network Head Chief. So he's the guy in charge of knowing how much water is flowing through the river. And in the Netherlands, if you haven't seen them yet, every about kilometer, the speed of the water is, and the volume of the water is measured every 15 minutes. So if it comes to the big river, don't worry. We can get those measurements easily. Huh?
Really not gonna tell how to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell how to do it, but I just told you how to do it. Yeah. And also the dissolved oxygen meter. I said I won't tell you as a hint, but I'm telling you now. You can just measure. You can just borrow a measure from Jaap. We'll see him next Wednesday. He's a nice guy. Lab work. Ooh, that's really small. The conversion from my normal PowerPoint to this the BBB wasn't good for the readability. Anyway, so for the cuvette tests, these are the tests that we have in stock. And these are the agars that we have in stock. We actually have more than this, but check. So even though I said, oh, we have total N cuvettes, and I ordered them, and I was told that they came in, before you start doing the measurements, it might be nice to check to make sure it's still there. We can discuss that in the groups. So that's the lab work. Excursions, as I mentioned, these are the excursions. So the Tour of the Mark, unfortunately, I will not be there. That's this Wednesday, the 10th of September at 10 a.m. in the parking lot of Boevinha Paradise. I believe it's a restaurant. It's called Boevinha Paradise. You can Google it. It's Boevinha Laan 3. It's, do you know where the Maastbos is?
Yeah.
It's right there. You know where the castle? It's right next to the castle. But if you Google it, you'll see it. It's really easy. It's a 5-minute bicycle ride. On the 17th, we have a meeting. I will be here at the meeting at 10 a.m. on the 17th.
What time you come back?
I come back Tuesday morning. So I come back there.
From the excursion.
From which excursion? The Tour of the Mark?
Yeah,
Oh, the tour is only, no, it is not a bicycle excursion. I think they didn't, we just have to, I think they take you in a bus. Uh, Christian, the Maasbos does not have a castle, but across the street from the Maasbos, there's a castle. Yeah. And actually, we will see the castle because it's part of the watery board. The water board has a castle. I'm so jealous. And that's Bovigneland 5, so it's actually right next to where you'll be picked up for the tour. On the
How long is this trip then?
Wednesday, it's I think hour and a half. It's an hour and a half. So it's from 10 to 11:30. It'll be informative, but it's not like it's just like a volunteer who's doing this. The next week we have like the real deal. Is somebody from the water board we're going to be able to ask questions. So come obviously with your research questions, with questions of how can I get the data from you? How can I borrow a dissolved oxygen meter? That kind of stuff. He's actually very interested in your work, so don't think he's happy to help you. The Beast Boss, yes, of course. Bring your camera. Bring your camera whenever you go into the field. Take pictures. Put in your report. You'll see what the first assignment I say is. What's the second assignment? Sorry, the second assignment I say, go bicycling, look for site locations, take pictures, make notes. But we'll get to that. You can get to that when you see that. The Beast Balls trip is on the 24th. You can get there by public transportation, or we can organize cars. So I'm going to be going by car. I can take at least 3 people with me. It's about a half an hour drive. It's.
From the bus station is actually pretty far.
Have you walked?
No, I just was there 2 weeks ago, but
Oh.
it's no real public transportation.
I was told there was. It stops right at the place. Are you sure? We'll look at it again.
Yeah.
The one in Dordrecht, eh? The one in Dordrecht. Okay, because I was told there's a specific bus that stops right there. I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we can also organize cars. Yeah, so Dordrecht is only 20 minutes. If you don't know, it's close. 20 minutes to the train station, then you take a bus for another 20 minutes. Or I can take 3 students. Maybe someone else has a car. We can go by car. It takes about the same amount of time by car or by train. Although I guess car is cheaper because it's just gas. The Neeltje Jans is on the 1st of October. I will be renting vans. We'll be visiting the Delta Works. And then again, Finland. So I need to get a sense of how many students are really interested in going, and then we can start organizing that. Again, this one is very much optional because it's. I do realize it's expensive. It's fun, but not everybody has the time or money to do that. We all have lives and jobs, etc. Deliverables. There are 5 deliverables, and all must be uploaded to the project Blackboard site. You have the project plan, is the first one due on the 19th, and the redo on the 25th. The tip-top is in the tutor meeting of the 22nd. It's also pass-fail. The final report and theory are due on Wednesday. They are both graded. 5.5 is a minimum for pass. You must pass everything. The advice report is due on Friday. It's also graded 1 through 10, 5.5 being a pass. And also the presentations must be uploaded. That is written in the syllabus for the project. In general terms, the final report is individual, and their advice report is a group report. So that's the main difference. And I think the final report is worth 50%, and the advice report is worth 25%. So the final report is about what you did. So, for example, I think you talked about Christina doing a lot of the lab work. So her final report will be about what lab things she did, how the results. So it's your report about what. Yeah, exactly. So your job in the group. So what you did, that's your final report. The advice report is all the things to put together. That's the. I would say synthesized, not copy-paste. Of course, there will be elements of copying and pasting, but there are a lot of things you will not be copying pasting. So, for example, if you're in your final report, you talk about the protocols you used, the sampling strategy you used, or if your job was to do the GIS mapping and the database, you talk about how you did it, etc. But in the advice report, nobody has time to read a report about every single step you took. An advice report, it should be a concise report that I can give to Jaap and say, yeah, this is what these students did, and it should really be maximum 10 pages. It should be concise. Yeah, it should be concise. No, not copy-pasticized. Definitely not. There will be elements, of course, of copying and pasting. However, there will be elements of synthesizing. So those are the deliverables. Oh, no, I haven't finished. And of course, all reports, redos of reports are due on the 15th of October. Assignments. I had a few questions about assignments. There are assignments that are due in weeks 1, 2, and 3. There are in total 4 assignments. And 1 and 2 are due on week 2. 3 is due in week 3. 4 is due in week 4. They are all on Blackboard. They all must be handed to Blackboard, but it's only pass-fail. They must be done individually, but you can help each other, obviously. So if you're in a group, I realized, for example, assignment 1 is like a list. They're like 30 questions, and they're not. There are like 30 questions. I can imagine that you will assign within your group certain people that will look certain questions up, and then you will discuss with each other. But you should realize that I can see if you copy-paste it directly from each other. There's a for those of you who are not from Avance, just a warning that we have something called Aphorus on Blackboard, and that's why all deliverables must be handed into Blackboard, not emailed to me, because there's a software program that immediately checks all assignments and the internet for copying, and it gives me a report. It says this one is 70% copied. Not only does it say the percentage that's copied, it said where it was copied from. So it'll give me the link to the website where it was copied from, or it'll say it was copied from Kaiva, or it was copied from Luana. It tells me these things. So please don't copy, because it's very obvious. I see it immediately. It's in like 2 or 3 sheets. MVP, Kaiva, MVP. Okay, so it's just pass-fail. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. Why do I even make the assignments? The question is because these assignments are what you're going to need for your theory report. I make these assignments to help you, because I ask these questions because these are the questions you should be asking. So I'm not just making you busy. I'm not giving these assignments to make you busy. I'm actually trying to guide you in your research by asking these questions. And that's why it's pass-fail. We can discuss your answers at the tutor meeting. That's the whole idea. And I'll say, well, you thought about this, but did you think about that? So it's just really guidance. Question, what are the groups? Here are the groups. I did it semi-randomly, and just for some reason there is a very Brazilian group. So Natalia, Bruno, Luana, and Dan, who's actually not here at this moment. He was here last week, but he didn't come today. He did send me an email saying that he had lots of work to do and he may not be able to come. But Dan. Well, yeah, of course. We'll get to that. That's group 1. Group 2 is, well, there are 3 people who are here. So Kaiva, Rafael, and Katja. And Christian will be in the group also as your away team.
But is he also sending
samples? Yeah. Oh. Yes, you are. But you'll be looking at maybe a couple of things. Ooh, discussions, soon to follow. Yeah. So in a group of 4, if it's a group of 3, for example, I expect less work to be done than a group of 4. So a group of 4 will have a little bit more work to do. That's why a group of 4 only has 1 person away. And this group is the Hungarian group.
which means one person?
Well, for example, In this group, Christian is the away person. Eat. Oh yes, I'm very hungry. Eat something then. Ha ha ha. It just gets funnier and funnier. Thank you for the comment, Emilio.
Yeah.
So this group has one away person who will be sending samples, which means more work for this group. However, therefore, Christian should accept work from you. So maybe you can make him the guarder of the database, or you can ask him to make your GIS map. He can do the GIS of the Netherlands here. I mean, in Romania, or not. Yeah, Christian. So you will do a little bit more lab work, and he will do a little bit more computer work. See, it's win-win, and you can specialize. Oh, it's like I thought about these things. So the next group is Rutger, Marina, Marijke with Emilio as our abroad person. And so Emilio, same dealio, Emilio. You can send your samples, and we can have some like lab specialists here who can take your samples for you, do your samples for you, and you can do some stuff for them. So maybe a little bit of extra GIS work, maybe a little bit extra. Maybe you can do the editing of the group report. Yeah. So I'll let you guys decide how you divide the work within the group. And lastly, we have the Hungary group. And we'll have one person here, Christina, who will be the representative, the flag bearer. And I think she's agreed to do all of the lab work. And then field work and computer work for this group will be done by the other members who are in Hungary. Yes, we have a question from Christina, yes?
And I have to also take samples from Mark?
Huh?
Do I also have
No,
to
you do not.
just with the samples from
Yes. So both. I got the same question from Christina and Simona at the same time. One typed, one. Yeah. So no, your group will be the fully Hungry group.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but actually that's fun. So you guys will be slightly in the dark when it comes to all the Mark group's work, and in the presentation you'll have fresh questions. Yes, we have a question from Christina.
The post for the
I do. Yeah. So send the bill, but don't do. Well, pay for it and tell me how much it is. Photocopy and send me the bill for sending, but not in one day. It has to be realistic. 2 or 3 days postage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
don't want to express.
no express.
Oh come on! It's not Hungary. It's like piece of
Oh,
meat, like nothing.
how much is?
I have no idea.
Well,
And,
quote me.
export.
Simona, give me a quote. How much it costs to send your water sample overnight? If it's, I'll look at the price and I'll decide. I have a budget, but it's not huge. So,
But you are rich.
I mean, remember things like rental of kayaks also comes from that budget. So,
She can also send you a couple of beers also as a water sample or something. Palinka.
no, Palinka is not an acceptable source of payment. For people who don't know what Palinka is a type of alcohol from Hungary. It's like schnapps. It's Hungarian schnapps. It's actually very delicious. Lots of alcohol. Can you pay me off? I accept bribes, but I think that's a joke. For people on YouTube, that's a joke. The bribes will be more than the postage, so. But I'm gonna have to go back and delete that from the YouTube. Yeah, Rutger?
So our group 3 is going to do a river Emilio shoot, or are we going to do?
Oh, so Emilio will send you samples from his river in Spain. You will analyze the samples and send him the data, and then he will help you with other things. So he'll do your graphs for your reports, or he'll do the map for your sites. So everybody, I'm hoping like one person will be like a specialist. So one person will specialize like in the lab work, or 2 people. A couple people will specialize in computer work. So not everybody has to do everything.
You will help us with our side, but we also have to do our side. So you mean the market or?
Yeah. So for groups 2 and 3, you'll have 2 sites.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So it may seem like more work, but not really, because the other group is a group of 4, and you're basically a group of 3, with doing some extra work, and the group of 4 will be expected to do more. So rather than 3 sites, they'll have to do 5 sites. So it ends out the same amount of work, only the group of 4 will only have 1 river, and the other groups will have comparisons. Any few points added? No, not few points added to the final grade. However, we can discuss if you go. I have to think of something for Finland. So if you go to Finland, there'll be a replacement of something, or yeah.
Or, yeah.
Well, I'm open to ideas.
Or, yeah.
I can't say, but it will definitely be less work for people coming to. I mean, there'll be some kind of reciprocity. Since you did a week extra, you will therefore need a little bit less. Maybe if you're not, for example, I know Katja I don't think you're following a extra credit course, or no. So for her example, I could give her an extra credit point. If any of you need extra credit points, this would be the perfect way.
So we can do that for elective as well.
Elective points. So, and if you need for the advanced students, we have this thing called CAA points, or extra elective points. This would definitely qualify easily for elective points.
If it's for 1 week is only 1 point, you mean?
No, I would say even 2 points, because 2 points
so
easily.
If someone has too much points, the school gonna pay out?
No. In the case where you don't need the elective points, then I will, for example, replace a deliverable. Instead of doing a deliverable, you can go to Finland, and that counts. But I have to think about it.
And do you know that for this year we need CA like 2 points, isn't it?
Yes. Well, for this minor,
You actually already give us 1 with the introduction with the database.
that's 2.
It's also 2.
Yeah. Yeah. The minors are now required to have 2 extra credit points, but I find that not very nice for the students, that they have to just send them out and find something to do for 2 credits. So I allow the extra credits to be fulfilled by these first week intro courses. But if you say, I think most of you have done that, but if you say, I don't really want to do that, I don't have time, I guess you can also do Finland to get the 2 extra credits. Or, for Katja, I know you are interested in doing a small side project for 2 credits. I'm open for suggestions. Yeah. Okay. We've now been going for more than an hour, I see on my screencast. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to. Are we finished? When's the class even end?
12.
Oh, it starts at 12. Okay. So we have an hour and a half. I would suggest the groups to divide up into their groups. Obviously, there's one person missing, I think, from each group, and there's a lot to explore. Go to the Blackboard site if you haven't. Sign up for the Blackboard site. It's called. It's on the next sheet. Yeah. So, that last points. All tutor meetings, workshops, and practicals are obligatory, and for that means. The tutor meetings are, I think, in week 3, 4, and 5. Those are obligatory. However, you can sign up on the Blackboard site. So if you see in your schedule, it's between 9 and like 2 o'clock, you have something for the minor. That's where you can reserve on the Blackboard site. There's called a wiki, and your group can sign up for a time. Yeah? You just put the name of the people in your group, and what time you want to meet with me. It's on the Blackboard. So that's what I say here. Tutor meeting times can be booked with the wiki on Blackboards. Go to the Blackboard site called Minor EG Project Urban Ecology, and on the Blackboard site you will see the wiki, and you can sign your group up for a time that you want.
But then each meeting is gonna have minutes. 6:36, 6:39, and 6:42.
6.
The time of the meeting.
Okay.
Now I saw the dates.
Okay, yeah, there are dates. So there's on the Blackboard site. Yes, exactly. Yeah, correct. For the people who will just put it on, Daniel, Daniel, I'll go through the questions. There are 3 questions. Is it possible to get a doc on Blackboard with all Finland info? Yes. I will put that online. So for me, we meet twice a week online. Yes, Simona. For the people who are abroad, people here don't know this, but if you go abroad, we have also weekly personal updates, so I can check them. So for Simona, Christian, Daniel, Emilio, we have 2 meetings. We have a meeting with the group, and then we have our private meetings, which you do as you did in the past. That's on the other Blackboard site. For the people here in the Netherlands, we just have 1 meeting on the 22nd, the 29th. It's online. The first one, let's see, it's on the schedule. So let's see, the first one is on, yes, the 22nd, update with tutor, the 29th, and the 6th. Those are the 3 obligatory meetings. Any last points? Yeah, so I said students studying abroad must make an additional update meeting. As people who are abroad already know, you're allowed to miss 1 tutor meeting with an excuse, like for example, my grandmother died, so that's an excuse that I allow. If you miss more than 1, you get a fail for the process, and you can fix that fail, but we discuss. Hopefully you won't fail the process. Skype will count as a meeting only if this is arranged ahead of time. So don't call 5 minutes before the meeting. Oh, I forgot about the meeting. I'm going to do it on Skype or Hangout. You have to schedule this, and people have to agree. Yeah? Yeah, sign up for the Blackboard site, and here you'll find all the presentations, all the assignments, all the links, etc. And that's it. I thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.